Okay, good morning. We're back to our morning class. Yesterday we were discussing on this lesson 3 of what's called piyut, right? Piyut, we said, is another name for it is like it's preparation. We also said it's like poems, right? Somebody said that it's foreplay, but foreplay in the sense that you have to get your wife ready emotionally so that she's always ready for an emotional connection with you. Yeah, and of course this book is leaning towards the intimacy world, and we said that a man has to fulfill his wife emotionally, that she's able to willingly wanting to be ready for him at all times, right? That's really a big gauge on where your relationship is standing. We mentioned yesterday that a woman wants to find favor in her husband's eyes, right? A husband that criticizes his wife, there's no way she's going to find favor in him, meaning in favor in his eyes. She's not going to think that she's favorable in his eyes when he's giving her criticism, right? Because it's completely the opposite. When you favor somebody, you never criticize them, right? About anything, regardless of what it is. We're talking about facts, yeah? Yesterday we mentioned, how do we learn of this whole intimacy, right, of this piyut? We learn from the rooster. And he mentioned that the rooster says, oh, I'm going to buy you a dress and this and that. So he wasn't really talking about a dress. It's that the rooster is telling him, I will do anything for you. I'll buy you anything. I'll do whatever, And after the fact, he said, I don't really have money. But if I had the money, I would, buy the whole world for you. Yeah, the rooster says. So he wants to say that we learn from the animal kingdom on how to behave, in the forms of tzniut, in forms of the bed, in forms of whatever it is, right? So we come over here, it says, King Solomon and the rooster. From the nature which God placed in the rooster, we also learn that the husband's piyut is not a time for a good Torah thought about the weekly Torah portion. No, his words must create an almost lightheaded and playful atmosphere that will awaken his wife's heart. Chongavarit, what is he saying? He's saying, don't start talking to your wife about halacha and this and that, whatever. No. You got to start talking to her as a man to a woman. How beautiful she is, something that is going to make her relaxed. And, I know people, I never say anything to my wife. I never criticize her, but they give her 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour discussion of why she's not be wearing a certain skirt, or the colors that she's wearing is a little bit not sniyut or whatever. That's not called an intimate connection. You understand? She doesn't want to be, she doesn't want you to be her rabbi. She doesn't want you to be her father. She doesn't want you to be her teacher, her guidance counselor, or whatever. She wants you to be her husband. Husband means I want to infuse you with love and emotion so that I can feel free to tell you anything. Yeah? It says this idea is also expressed by another midrash, which relates that one day King Solomon was walking in his courtyard when he saw a rooster speaking to his mate. Being the wisest man in the world, King Solomon understood the language of the birds and listened curiously to that conversation. The rooster began showing off before the hen, and he said to her, he would even destroy the entire palace of King Shlomo. You hear? The rooster, kukariku, says to the hen, for you, I would, destroy King Solomon's palace. Now Shlomo understood their language, and he says, Behemet, he's talking like that, yeah? Upon hearing the remarks of the proud rooster, King Shlomo, apparently insulted by the rooster's threat, approached him and asked, oh, what did you just say? Yeah, Shlomo asked the rooster, what did you say? You would destroy my palace for this hen? The rooster responded, are you King Shlomo, whose wisdom is recognized from one side of the world to the other? Yet you are agitated by the piyut of a rooster? So the rooster says to him, you're bothered by what I said? I'm just trying to talk nice to my, I'm showing her, what kind of manly man I am. King Shlomo responded, even so, in the future, find other things to be proud about. Yeah, don't say this, that you're going to destroy my etta. Huh? Who, the rooster? Again, it's not that he's lying. He's showing off to his wife. But in the sense that he wants to make her feel like, I will do anything for you. Yeah? So therefore, Shlomo Melech said to the rooster, listen, find something else to be proud about. After the rooster returned to the hen asked him what King Shlomo wanted from him, And he explained, the king was pleading with me not to destroy his palace. You hear? The rooster says, he said, I said to him, I'm going to destroy your palace. He said, please don't destroy my palace. Yeah? The point of the Midrash is clearly coming to teach that the words of courtship are the husband's words that will speak to his wife's heart and excite it and awaken the desire to unify with him. From the rooster's courtship, we learn that a wife wants to hear that the husband loves her so much that he would do anything for her. Therefore, the rooster proudly boasts to the hen that for her, he would even destroy the king's palace. Imagine, this is by the way, this is not a story that they're saying, to a child. This is brought down in the Gemara, in the whatever, yeah? So it's something real. We have to understand that this is, many people say, my wife, she's terrible, horrible person. She's this, she's that. Of course she's going to be a horrible person because we're very selfish. We as men are very selfish. We don't care about her. We care about ourselves only. We care about the 5 minutes that we get pleasure from her. And you know what? You could do this 1 time, 2 times, 10 times, but later on she's going to figure it out. Anybody mind? Why is he so selfish? I don't get it. Where am I in this picture? Yeah? How come when he wants me, he talks to me? The two weeks that she's nida, Bechlal, he doesn't even talk to her. Right? Why? He knows he can't get anything. And then one day before the mikveh, he starts saying, oh, yeah? And what does she see? She says, this guy's no good. Only when he knows he can be with me, he talks to me. During those 2 weeks of Nida, a person has to do all these things, take her out, speak to her, walk with her, give her compliments, you understand? So she can be ready for that.
The Torah forbids the man to be very...
Again, I'm not saying you have to be intimate with her.
No, but
listen. You know how much, again, we're recording. I don't want to hear it. I know what you're going to say. We're not saying you have to, just one walk with a wife and talk about just nature and this, that in the evening, it's a big thing for her. Do we walk? No, because we're tired. We don't need this garbage. A ride to Manhattan, walk in the park, little picnic, schmicnic. What do you mean? There's no intimacy over here. You are spending time in a, so then, you know what they would do then? They would do like Indians. You know what the Indians do? In India, they tell them during the two weeks of Nida, they're in a hut over there. And many of them die. They put the woman in a hut. The Torah does not say that. The Torah says you be in the same room. Okay? In the same room. Asur to be in a different room. Yeah, you cannot be in a different room. In the same room, different beds. Okay? So don't tell me walking in the park is going to be whatever. You're in the same room. Okay? So I know what you want to say. Leave that thought for later.
To talk about the way you're saying now, right?
Yeah.
When you talk to and bring closer to you, and it's accidentally will happen.
Again, we're just talking regular talk. How was your day? How's it? We don't ask her how her day is. We don't care how her day
When you
is.
say whatever the loud mouth stuff.
I didn't say you say love Mav. I didn't say. I said you have to build a connection with her. You know what connection is? I know everything that happens to her all throughout the day. I know what hardships she went through, and I am understanding her. You understand? Says over here, Rav Kahana went up to the home of Rav, and he waited under the bed. We know this story, right? He went under the bed. He heard that he spoke and laughed and fulfilled his needs, and a way of saying that he had relations with his wife. So Rav Kahana is under the bed, yeah, and he's hearing his rabbi on top of the bed, and and they had relations. Says Rav Kahana said to Rav, the mouth of the father, yeah, a name respectable teacher, sounds as if he has not eaten food forever. He goes, listen, when you were talking to your wife, this is after the fact, it's like this is the first time you were with her. How is that, Gavarit? You sounded so better. Rav said to him, go out from here. This is not the way of the land. He says, what are you doing here? Get out of here. He says to him, no, this is Torah also, and I must learn it. Rashi over there says that he spoke and he joked with his wife frivolously to inspire her desire for intimacy. You hear? Big Rabbi, Rav, he came and he started joking with his wife. How are you? My lubov, ta 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 ta. Why? In order for them to have good relations. He said, I heard from my teacher, the Stipler, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, Rav Moshe Feinstein, and Rav Mordechai Gifter, all these four rabbis, that this story was a process of Shimush Talmidei Chachamim that was given to the generations as a perfect example of the Torah's expectation of Piyut, which means, Shimush means, I, as a doctor, let's say doctoral student, I have to be next to doctors to see what they're doing. Same thing with Torah. You need to be with the rabbis to see what they're doing. He says this example was a practice. Yeah, how do you call that? I'm doing residency. Residency to experience to understand how you're supposed to be with your wife. It's important to understand that when Rav Kahana went under the bed of Rav, as far as he was concerned, he was still in the Bet Midrash hearing a lesson regarding the Torah's expectations of proper intimacy. Outside of Torah, nothing else occurred in this story. Let's review the points which Rav Kahana learned. Yeah, so he says, while he was under the bed, he was in the Bet Midrash, learning, how do I do this with my wife? The first thing that we learned was Rav spoke and laughed with his wife. Rashi explains that he spoke to his wife words of frivolity.
What does frivolity mean?
Like not, hey, what's with the kids? What's this? What's that? No. Don't tell, I learned this halakha, this, that. No. How are you, my love? How's it? What beautiful dress you have on. By the way, would you have, meaning things that bichlal is not something that you would discuss with her in a table, whatever. Yeah? Frivolity means something that is going to make her happy, joyful, intimate. Yeah? It says over here, goodwill towards their marital relations. This is the proper context of the great sages of Israel of all generation. Imagine. The implication of this teaching takes on a new dimension if we consider the words of the Rambam in Hilchot Deot, where he states that Rav in particular never spoke words of emptiness in his entire life. You hear what the Rambam says? Rav never spoke words of emptiness. What do you mean? We just see he spoke frivolity to his wife, which means these are words of emptiness. What's emptiness? You have a beautiful dress. How you do? Wow, you made your curls so nice. How'd you do that? What do you do? Yeah? He says, no. Yet, with his wife, he spoke these words. So therefore what? Even these words are Torah. That's what he wants to say. That's not words of frivolity. You hear? This is the words that she needs to hear. And therefore, if she needs to hear these words, it means these are very important words that Rav spoke.
So even if you're going to say words to her that you normally wouldn't say day to day?
Absolutely. What do you mean? Like bad words?
Not bad words, but like words that wouldn't be refined, let's say.
She wants to hear it? She wants to hear it? You do it. You see, one of the major problems we have in marriages, and I was also at fault there, is that our wives want us to be a certain way, right? And we're like, no, halakha, we have to do this, that. Again, yeah, if you're in public and everything, but let's say nobody's home and she wants to sit with you like this. She wants to wear, a mini skirt. Yeah, nobody's home, right? No, everything is kosher. You're like, no, mini skirt not allowed, this is not, whatever. Again, I'm not, but he says, you gotta give her what she wants to hear in order for you to make a connection.
What if what she wants goes against your...
Then you gotta break yourself. Thank you for saying that. You gotta break yourself.
Your
and this is...
You have certain standards.
Yes, this
you don't
is...
say certain words, you don't...
Hello. Look at me. Rav didn't have standards? That's what we're trying to tell you. Rav never spoke words of frivolity. Rambam says that he never wasted his time. But with his wife, I'm going to waste my time. Waste my time, Kilu, right? But he's not. He's building a relationship. And this is where we have a problem, where many people, you know what they say? No. I cannot take out my wife. Why? I have a regular seder. Seder? My friend. If you have seder and she's miserable, guess what? Your seder is not worth anything. You understand? So you have to spend one time a week or one every 2 weeks, right? To get out of the seder and do her seder. Because she's a very important part in your life. You understand? You cannot do your seder and destroy this poor woman. Which we have a lot of this, by the way. Yeah? It says over here, a person should increase his silence and only speak in words regarding wisdom or things which are essential for the needs of this world. It was said regarding Rav, the student of Rabbeinu HaKadosh, that he never spoke empty words in his life. Considering the story of Akana, it's clear that words of emptiness, which are needed for piyut, which means for courtship of her, are not considered empty at all. So we can put this into everything that you want to think of. Walking in a park. Come on, she wants it. Okay, no problem. Let's go walk in the park. Talking about, she wants to tell you, sweetie, I was baking all these things and I don't have time for that. I'm such a busy guy. Torah, Shmuel, Many people shut their wife like that. Shut her down like that. He's thinking, I'm going to now listen to her 20 minutes explaining to me how she made the cookies and they burnt. That's like Bitul Torah. You're probably not thinking that. But there's a lot of people who think that way. You understand? He says that's not Bitul Torah. That is Torah for her because she needs it. Yeah? He says the next point that needs to be clarification is the question of Rav Kahana. It seems that you, Rav, did not even eat once in your life. What does Rashi explain? He says, you are acting like a starving person. It is as if you have never had marital relations with entire life. For you're acting lightheadedly to fulfill your own desires. You hear what he's saying? Rav Kahana says to his own rabbi, he says, Rabbi, you were there as if you never had a relation with your wife. You've been living with her for a long time already. How do you do that? Yeah? Rav Kahana observed something that in his eyes was not natural. This entire event occurred at a time when Rav was no longer a young man. And Rav Kahana recognized that Rav was actively arousing his physical desires, even though they would not have been there naturally. Not only that, but as Rashi explains, he did not seem to be doing this exclusively for his wife. Rather, he was apparently doing so to fulfill his own desires, which means he's not doing this because she needs it. Yeah, she needs it. But he's not making her think that I'm doing it because you need it. It's because I need it. You understand?
Again,
1 second. This was the great amazement that forced Rav Kahana to burst out in amazement upon hearing the seemingly frivolous behavior of his great Torah teacher. Yeah, because you think your wife doesn't understand what you're feeling? Your wife knows from, I don't even want to call it osmosis, because osmosis you have to be a little bit, in some kind of a medium of a liquid or whatever, right? But she knows, you know what? The air, we could say the air is osmosis. Yeah, she knows exactly what you're feeling in your heart. And she knows when you don't want to be with her. And she knows that you think about her a certain way. And she knows that you're angry with her. Even though many guys tell me, I don't show my wife anger. I said, I know you don't. But it's in your face, it's in your eyes. And she sees it. He doesn't talk nasty to her, I know. She says, no, he doesn't take nasty. But I know he's upset at me. Why? They feel this. You understand? And when they feel this, they're unable to connect with you emotionally. And therefore, there's no relationship in bed. You understand? Because, So he says, Rav made himself aroused for himself in order to do her will. You understand? And this is where we have a big problem with many couples. And the rabbi says men are not interested in their wives. And the poor wives are not able to have relations with their husbands on a regular basis.
So a woman needs to feel like she's desired by her husband.
But not only that, the husband has no desire for her.
And that's why the rabbi over here was
He did whatever he needed to do for himself.
to be into her.
Exactly.
So that she feels that he's
Exactly. Very, very difficult thing to do, but it's a must. So what do I hear from guys? No, she knows what I need, let her do it. What? Are you out of your mind? You have a brain? What's wrong with you? Even in the real world, we don't do that. Yeah, I don't know if you were here yesterday, but we said, in the animal kingdom, it's never the woman comes to the man. Never. It's the man, male, right? Male lion, bird, this, that, whatever. They go to the female and they start arousing her whichever way they can. You understand? So the men have the audacity to say right now, she knows what I want. Yeah, if she wants it, she could take care of it. Yeah, what are you kidding me? That's the lowest of the low for any woman. You hear?
Когда ты говоришь, мужчина должен сделать его desire это. Ты говоришь, женщина чувствует, когда ты для своего desire это делаешь, правильно?
Yeah.
Как это получается, что она
Again,
обратно...
look, you have to make sure, yesterday's class, that she's 24 hours emotionally satisfied, that she wants you. But if you don't want her, right? Because whatever, you have to make your desires, however it is, right? That you want her. for her when you don't want her. You understand what I'm saying? So I hear what you're saying.
Again, she was have feeling that whatever you do, it's you do for
That's why you have to have a brain. Hashem put us over here with a brain. Hello. You as a man have to know. You know what's the most desirable thing to hear from your wife and your children? Abba, you're our rabbi, you're our coach, you're our leader, you're our everything. Do you know how good that is to hear that? And that's why it's very important to educate yourself. In what? First of all, in regular education. That you should know a little bit math, a little bit English. Your son comes with your homework, right? And you're like, what is that? I have no idea what that is. Why? Maybe because he was not good in school, or he never learned it, or he forgot it. You understand? The spelling test and everything's like, how do you spell that? Google, how do you spell whatever? It shows like, oh, my dad doesn't know anything. You understand? And this cheapens the father in the eyes of the children. And about halachot, regular. I'm not talking, but it's regular stuff like, Abba, what do I do? Like yesterday, my daughter came. Oh, darn. I was in a challah party and I made the bracha of Rashat Challah, but I shouldn't have, Dad. I said, why? It's enough, right? Because she goes, because I want to make, a little bit of this, and tomorrow I want to make a little bit of that. So when you separate them and you make them differently, you don't say Rashat Challah. I was like, Behemet? I said, no, you do. She goes, no, open up to Wachimoko, let's check. I said, wow, it's very good. Why? Because they learned it. You understand? Imagine the father's like, what's up Rashat Challah anyway? You finished. And we have these kind of fathers. You understand? So that's why it's very important to be knowledgeable in all areas, including how do I make my wife happy? It's our obligation. You know what men tell me? It's her obligation to make me happy. She wants to be happy, let her make me happy, and then I'll make her happy. What? Many men say that to me today. Today they say that to me. You understand? He says, interesting that the Gemara did not record the answer of Rav to Rav Kahana. There was no answer. The Stipler told me that this was because of the Christians. But the tradition, by the way, he mentions a lot. The Christians apparently hid a lot of our things that we need to know from the beginning. He says, but tradition was passed down from teacher to student, all the generations from those who feared the word of Hashem. He says, after their union, right, the rooster apologized that he could not bring the hen the dress that he promised because he had no money. This is a small selection of the Maharal's words explaining the nature of the rooster's apology. Yesterday we brought an analogy of a rooster. He says, you learn how to be with your wife from a rooster. Why? He tells his wife, I'm going to buy you a dress and this and that. He pumps her up and then he's with her. And then he says, sorry, I don't have money for a dress. But if I had the money, I'd buy you anything in the world, So look what the Maharal says. After he had relations with her, and he had no more power to maintain their intimate connection, therefore he bent his head, and he lost the power to spread out his wings because of the weakness of his power of intimacy. And this is the nature of the world. What happens? The minute a man ejaculates, he's out. Yeah? By the way, just as a note, that's the beginning for the woman, you should know. By us, that's the end. By the woman, that's the beginning. Why? Because now she wants to have an intimate connection. That's why a lot of women, why you always turn around and go to sleep? Why can't you hug me, cuddle with me, this, that, this? Yeah, because by them, it's a continuation of my husband loves me, he cares for me, and they don't feel used. When you do that and blah, oh my God, I've been used. You understand? That's why it's very important for men to understand this. And what does he say? I'm tired, I gotta wake up in the morning. What? I mean, that's like a wow. And then later on say, why my wife doesn't want to sleep with me? Because when she needed the emotional connection, right? People ask, what's an emotional connection? What's an emotional connection? That's an emotional connection. Right? Because now, you know what she sees? Wow. He's not doing it for himself. Because he's already satisfied. But he's actually cuddling with me. You know what I mean? And this is not, it doesn't have to be a lot, guys. It's just, instead of turning the other way, right? You turn this way, put your hand around, yeah, this, that, and then, whatever. Yeah, it's mamish, maybe a couple of minutes more. Yeah? It says over here, the Maharal, is alluding to one of the basic differences between man and woman. Even after the man comes to the climax of his intimacy and begins to lose his ability to maintain the union, the woman's needs have not been completely fulfilled. That is, although the woman also achieved the physical climax, she still has an intense emotional need to feel the husband's love and caring. You hear? It says from the rooster's response, we learned that a husband needs to express to his wife that although he can't continue to express his love and care through his physical union, he wishes that he could shower her with even more love. In this way, she appreciates that he still cares for her needs to the best of his ability. Meaning, translating it to us, don't just turn around and go to sleep. Look her way, hug her, this and that, whatever. Maybe say a couple of nice words, whatever those words are, And wow, she's that. This man cares for me. This man loves me. This man emotionally connected to me. And therefore, she's looking for the next time. But when he does what he does as a regular man, guess what? This guy. Mama should use her. Even though she also enjoyed it. She also enjoyed it, right? He's a user, right? Because her climax goes further than our climax. Says, I would like to explain the depth of the piyut based on a very fundamental idea that I learned from Rav Shach. As an extended relative to our teacher, Rav Shach, I was fortunate enough to have a special connection with him. He says, when I was in his home during the first year of marriage, by the way, this is good, he gave me advice on how to have a successful marriage. He took me into his bedroom, opened up his closet, and pointed to 2 suits that were hanging there. And then he asked, if your wife's closet is packed side to side with dresses, let's say she's got 200 dresses, and she tells you that she has absolutely nothing to wear, what are you going to say to her? Knowing that I was being set up, but having no choice to remain silent, I answered, what about the blue one or the green one? That, I think that'll fit you nice. They're both very nice. Having heard my attempt, Rav waved his finger, says, no. Why do you want to argue with your wife? Do you know anything about a woman's clothing? Says, this is not something that you need to know about. And if she says that she needs clothes, you need to trust her and prepare to buy her what she needs. It's got 200 dresses. This is Rav Shach saying. He says, seeing that I was a little flustered, seeing that I was a little flustered by his answer, he continued, not just one outfit, you have to buy her 2 outfits. He says, at that point I was completely baffled. How would I be able to afford 2 outfits when I'm a yeshiva student? He's telling to a yeshiva guy. Understanding my concern, Rav Shach continued, do you think that I'm causing you a loss of money? Just the opposite. I'm saving you a lot of money. If your wife doesn't perceive that you understand her and her needs, that she needs new clothing, she'll keep buying them until you really don't have any money. Which means what? He doesn't understand me. Listen, you got so many dresses. Dresses? Okay, buying. He explained further that when a wife tells her husband that she doesn't have clothes to wear, she's really saying 2 things. 1, she feels that she's lacking clothes, probably, And 2, she wants to see that her husband cares about the fact that she's lacking clothing and really understands her needs. And by the way, this is with everything, not just clothing. With like little things and show, this happened and that happened. And we discount the wife, not by saying, I don't want to hear that. Our facial expression, our body language, everything's like, she's thinking, he doesn't want to listen to me. Look at him. I'm on the phone, she's telling me, what? So therefore, what happens? He doesn't give a damn about me. And when he doesn't care about me, guess what? Number 1, no emotional connection. He doesn't care about me. And number 2, he doesn't understand me. I'm going to make things worse. If the husband begins to argue with her that perhaps she isn't lacking clothes, she'll feel that her husband doesn't understand or care about her needs. If she feels that he doesn't understand her needs, she will cause them to increase until he's forced to recognize them. Until in the end, she'll keep buying clothes until there's no money left. Why? Oh, you don't understand me? No problem. Buying, credit card. He's still fighting with her. Why are you buying? You have plenty of clothes, On the other hand, Rav Shach explained, If you respond by saying that she should buy 2 new outfits, she'll know that you understand her. If you take her out first time and buy her 2 new outfits, and also the second time, buy her 2 new outfits, and also the third time, buy her 2 new outfits, when she tells you she doesn't have clothes, and you tell her, let's go buy 2 new outfits, but we really can't afford it, she's going to respond. After the third time, right? Or maybe the fourth time, she's going to say, no, sweetie, but we cannot afford it. If we cut back just a little on our grocery bill, we could do it. He's telling her. The man, he says, tell her, no, don't worry. We'll buy less chicken. We'll get you a dress. Yeah? Says, after a little thought, she'll say, no. The truth is, I could wear my green dress. You hear? Because now why? He understands her. Women are not stupid. A lot of men think, my wife, she's stupid. She wastes money like crazy. I don't understand what's with her. She has no idea of finances. Oh, she has a big idea of finances. Let me tell you something. Behind the scenes, they tell me exactly what they're thinking. They don't tell the husband because, again, he doesn't care about my regular thoughts. I'm going to tell him my intimate thoughts about what I really think about him. Yeah? So what does he say? When he doesn't care about me, ring him out. Ring him out because he doesn't care about me. But when he cares about me, guess what? I care about him. Finally, it says, this is a very important lesson which transcends new clothing. All of the needs of a wife find a dual expression. The need itself and the wife's desire that the husband care about and recognize her needs. You hear what he's saying? And he goes, this is flat out on everything. 2 things. One is that she has a need. And 2 is that she has a big desire that her husband care and recognize about her needs. Sweetie, my hand hurts. Okay, take a Tylenol, that's it. No, it's not the Tylenol. Never tell her to take a Tylenol. That's the worst thing. I don't need him to tell me. I know that I need to take a Tylenol. I need him to care about the fact that my hand is really, how, sweetie? Where, like this? Wow, how long has it been like that? This and that. Kilo, yeah. I told you, my wife cut her finger one time. A little bit cut, She's like, oh, yeah, I cut my finger, this and that. I'm like, babe, man, where is it? So she shows it to me, right? But really, I didn't see anything. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. It must be like one of those paper cuts that hurts, Yeah. If you say, what is this? Come on, what is it? What are you, little kid? Which many men do that. See, you're thinking, how can you say that to your wife? Many men, why? You gonna bother me with this stupidity? It's that I want my husband to recognize my pain, to recognize my suffering, to recognize my need, to recognize to recognize me. You hear? It says, when the wife knows that her husband truly understands and cares for her, even needs that are not completely fulfilled will be much more acceptable. Which means, I need a bigger house. I don't have space for the closets and this and that, whatever. What are you talking about? Me, by the way, that's me. Throw out the stuff that we don't use and this and that, whatever. Wrong thing to say. We don't have any money to... Yeah, sweetie, you're right. We have to work on buying a bigger house because we need it. So much clothing. What'd you just do? You just understood her. And now she's, wow, he understands me? Now she knows you can't afford another house, because she knows what you're making. You understand? But she says, wow, he recognizes that I'm in pain with all these closet space, even though it's her fault, by the way. Because she has 300 pairs of whatever that she doesn't use and she doesn't want to throw out. Because one day, maybe, in 5 years or whatever, I might lose the weight that I get. I'm going to go back to my number 2 dress because I'm number 10 right now, you understand? But I'm not going to throw it out. In light of Rav Shach's teaching, we can gain a further insight into the need of piyut, which is courtship, of the rooster after the union. He was telling the hen that he knows that he was supposed to wrap her in love like a dress that would drape her from head to toe. In this context, a dress that would fit her is equivalent to an expression of love that would fit her emotional needs that extend beyond the end of their physical union. Therefore, even after a husband loses his physical power of intimacy, he must show his wife that he is in touch with her emotional reality and wants to connect with it as much as possible. When she recognizes that he's truly with her, she will be happily accept all of the love, that he did express. You hear? Meaning when she understands that you really want to connect with her, even though it's hard for you to connect, right? Even though you're unable to do it, for whatever reason it is, right? But he cares about me. Now, all the expression of love that you want to do, she accepts it without a problem. Baruch Adonai Olam, Amen.